Okay, welcome back to S is for Skye and not Sickle Cell. So today I just wanted to go into a brief description about sickle cell. What is it? Is there a cure? What is the treatment for it? And how did I find out that I had it and possibly that Skye may have it? So let me just jump right in. What is sickle cell? Sickle cell is a blood disorder. You may see me looking down at my notes because I could get sidetracked and start talking about something totally different. So, sickle cell is a blood disorder that causes the red blood cells to break down and be misshaped. So, I will try to insert a picture of regular blood cells versus if you have sickle cell. So, I'll put a picture up here. So I found out I had sickle cell trait as a child. I knew it my whole entire life. And growing up, they say, oh, if you ever want to have children, you can't marry somebody that has the sickle cell trait. And, you don't want you to have a sick baby. Fast forward, when I turned 31, I got married. And I had been with who is my husband now. I was with him for like 6 years. And he never said anything about the sickle cell trait, his parents. And what happened was we got married in April. And then we got pregnant in like July. Very quick. So anywho, when I went to my first pregnancy appointment, they have you fill out the questionnaire, and one of the questions was, do you have sickle cell trait? And I said yes. I checked yes. And then they asked if my husband, and we both said we didn't know. So if I could turn back the hands of time, I probably would have got him tested before I got pregnant, but you can't change it now. So anyway, so they ordered for him to get a test, and he got a test, and it came back positive for sickle cell trait. So with that being said, they told us that it was a 25% chance that she could have the disease. So we were kind of hopeful because it was like 75% no and 25% yes. So we're thinking the odds are going to be in our favor, So during my pregnancy, I try not to freak myself out too much, but your mind wanders and you're like, what if I have a sick baby, and what are we going to do, and what's our life is going to be like? Because I didn't really know too much about sickle cell. I didn't know anyone with it. I knew the singer on TV and TLC. That was it. That was the only person I knew with sickle cell disease, and I don't even know her. So anyway, so fast forward to the day Skye was born. Now during the newborn screening, they test all babies for sickle cell trait or sickle cell disease. So they tested her, and it came back positive. So they gave us a referral to the hematology department of Yale New Haven Hospital. Excuse me. So she was about a month old when we went to her first appointment, and they took a blood sample from her arm, IV, the normal way they take ours, and they tested her blood right then and there. And they wanted to confirm that she has sickle cell. And also they wanted to check her levels of blood, like her hemoglobin, sorry. They wanted to check her hemoglobin to see where it was. So they got the results back within that appointment. And her hemoglobin at that time was about 13, which is pretty good. So when a baby is first born, they have fetal blood, and they have the mom's blood. So usually the fetal blood is high. The fetal hemoglobin is high. That's why you normally don't see a baby have a crisis very early in life, because their hemoglobin is higher, because it has mom's blood and baby's blood. It's not just straight baby's blood, whose baby's blood is straight, sickle cell. So anyway, so during that appointment, they told us Skye's gonna live a fairly normal life for the first year of her life. Just keep her away from anyone who is sick. And they also told us that during, once she turned 2 months, they were gonna start her on penicillin. So she takes penicillin twice a day, once in the morning, once at night. And then they told me that, possibly when she turns 1, she may qualify to take a drug called hydroxyurea. But we'll visit that once we get closer to, her turning 1. So that was about May. And I think she didn't have her next hematology appointment until August. So about 3 months later. And in that appointment, they checked her hemoglobin again, blood tests to make sure she, it was still high. And so that was good. So that was about August, so it was fine. And then October rolled around. Skye is about 7 months, and she had her first sickle cell crisis. And I was so worried up until this point because I didn't know what to expect. Sorry, these braces. I didn't know what to expect when she had her first crisis. Like, how was I going to know she was having a crisis? Like, how do I know she's just not crying because she's a baby and babies cry? I wasn't sure. So anyway, I used to pray about it because I just didn't want her to be in pain and me not know why. So fast forward back to October, and we had went out as a family for pizza, and we had never been to this restaurant before. But anyway, so we went out for pizza, and I ended up getting like food poisoning, and she did as well. So she threw up a couple of times that night and had diarrhea. And I called her doctor. They were like, don't worry about it. Just give her fluids, so she doesn't get dehydrated from throwing up. So anyway, it was about 2 o'clock in the morning. So she went to sleep. It was about 2 o'clock in the morning, and I heard her grunting. So I'm like, why is she grunting? Is she choking on something? I'm like, maybe she has gas. I didn't know what it was. So she was just grunting like, and it wasn't stopping. She wasn't crying, but she was grunting like she was in pain. So I called the doctor, and I called her pediatrician, and I also called hematology because she didn't have a fever. And I didn't really know. I'm like, I'm calling somebody because somebody had to, just help me to know what to do. So anyway, so I explained to them what was going on, and they said being that the fact that she was grunting, they wanted to bring her in for tests. Excuse me. Just to check her out to make sure everything was okay. So we brought her into the emergency room, and they ran every test you could think of. It was just so nerve-wracking. And so when we first got there, they took the blood culture, but it took about 2 hours to get the results back. I don't know why it took so long. And in the doctor's office, it took no time, but they took the blood test, so to check her hemoglobin to see if there was any other type of infections going on. So in the meantime, they wanted to do a chest x-ray because they said, oh, maybe she's grunting because she has something lodged in her throat. Because I told them we had pizza earlier, and they took an ultrasound of her spleen. They said maybe her spleen is enlarged because, with a sickle cell patient, sometimes it could cause their spleen to become enlarged. They did, they test her for a UTI, so they wanted to put a catheter in her. It was just torture. And because no one was thinking really sickle cell because she was only 7 months, and they say, most babies don't have a crisis until they're 1. So they weren't thinking sickle cell. They were thinking, infection. Maybe she has meningitis. It was just all type of stuff. So anyway, the test results came back that her hemoglobin at this point, I think, was about an 8. So that was a big jump from a 13 normally when she was a baby, well, a newborn, to an 8 now. So they said, I think she's having a crisis. So she ended up staying in the hospital for a couple of days, about 2 days, and they just had her on Tylenol and Motrin around the clock. So we just did pain management and made sure she was eating and drinking. And but they couldn't tell me where the pain was, and she couldn't really tell me where the pain was. So it was like nerve-wracking to me. It was very nerve-wracking. So yeah, so we ended up going home, and it was just bothering me that I couldn't figure out where the heck this baby's pain was. Because I'm like, if I know where the pain is, then I can help her. And if I know where the pain is, I could try to alleviate that pain. So I checked her hands and feet. Her hands and feet weren't swollen, because sometimes, if you have sickle cell, your hands and feet could swell because the blood could get stuck in, the blood vessels. So that wasn't the case. So I just started praying, to be honest. I'm like, God, where the heck is this pain? Where is it? So what I decided to do was examine her body. I started at her feet and worked my way up. And I just touched every body part, and I just waited until I heard that grunting sound again. And I found out that it was in her shoulder. So every time I would lift her shoulder, she would grunt. So for the next couple of days, I just made sure that I accommodated her shoulder. So I made sure I watched the way I picked her up, and made sure I watched the way I put her clothes on when changing her, and then and made sure I monitor how other people did so as well. So her pain lasts probably like 3 or 4 days, in addition to the days that we were in the hospital. So it probably lasted a good week. So I just kept her on her ibuprofen and Motrin around the clock, every 6 hours. And in between those times, she was fine. She would play. But you just had to stay up on her medicine. There's no missing a dose. There's no like, let's not give her this one. No, you had to make sure that you was on it around the clock, just so she could be stable enough to be a normal baby. Because she wasn't like a zombie. It wasn't like she was asleep the whole time, because she was still just being a normal baby, but she just needed that baseline medicine. So anyway, so that was her first crisis. And then, so that was October. And I think she had her next one in December. So for all you who don't know, we live in Connecticut. It is cold and it is snowy. And if you have a child with sickle cell, you have to make sure they're dressed correctly. Make sure they're not outside in the cold for long periods of time, and just keeping them warm. And then, so anyway, so she had her next crisis in December, and it was again with the grunting. And then she had another one about a couple of months later. I think February was her next one. So she had one in February, and that one she stayed in the hospital. And she stayed in the hospital for a couple of times, because that time she had a fever. And whenever, a person with sickle cell has a fever, they usually go directly to the emergency room. So she had a fever. I'm sorry, I heard something. Anywho, so she had a fever, so she ended up staying in the hospital for a couple of days once the fever subsided. And yeah, that was it. So her last crisis was in April of this year. And it was of April this year, and then that was it. That was her last one. So she started a medicine when she turned 1. She turned 1 in March, so her appointment was like April, the end of April, for her 1-year checkup for the hematology. So she started a medicine, and it's called hydroxyurea. So she takes it once a day, every day, and she'll probably take it for the rest of her life. And since she's been on it, she hasn't had any pain crises. And it is October, almost November, so that's about 5 months, 6 months without any pain crises, and she was having them. Sorry. about once a month or once every 2 months. And, the pain lasting for about a week at a time. And so she hasn't had a pain crisis since March, which is such a blessing for her and for, everyone involved, because it's tough. It's tough, seeing her in pain. It's tough when she can't do certain things that she wants to do because she's in pain. Yeah, and it's just hard, and it's scary. Not even hard, it's scary, especially if she has a fever, because once that, she may have an infection, and then stuff could just turn very quick. So anyway, so as a mom, what I try to do now, thankfully the medicine has been helping, and she still takes her penicillin twice a day, and she takes the hydroxyurea once a day. So what I try to do is I try to make sure she's hydrated. I try to make sure that she's dressed properly. I try to make sure that, she's not in stressful situations. I try to make sure that she's not around people that are sick. And, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. And I make sure she's eating, a balanced meal. It's kind of hard with a toddler because she's in this no phase and everything is no. So I try my best to give her a balanced food. Just to prevent crises, try to prevent any crises. And making sure she has good hygiene, especially with COVID. But even before COVID, we was making sure she had good hygiene, washing her hands, because babies put everything in their mouth and they want to bite on everything. Making sure her pacifier is clean, and when people pick her up, make sure her pacifier is not leaning on their clothes, because and then she puts it in her mouth. Anyway, so I just try to prevent the things that I could prevent. Or not even prevent. I try to control the things I can control. And those things I can control. Making sure she's dressed. Making sure she has water. Making sure she has a jacket. Making sure she keeps on her shoes, even though she don't keep on her shoes. Just trying to alleviate us having to go down that road of having a crisis. But anywho, so yeah, that's pretty much our first 18 months in a nutshell. That's pretty much it. So our day-to-day life is just managing sickle cell, keeping it far over there, just keeping it away, and just doing our best of making sure she's healthy, So yeah, so in the next video, you'll get to meet Skye. She's currently sleeping now. She's taking a nap. She should be waking up in a few minutes. So you'll meet Skye, and you'll fall in love with her. She's fun. That's my girl. She's fun. So yeah, so that's it. If you have any questions, because I'm sure this video is all over the place. I had notes. I had notes, and I should have put my notes in order, but I didn't put them in order, so that's why the video is all over the place. So yeah, so that's it. I just wanted to give you a brief story time about sickle cell and our first 18 months with it. So I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.